I see that nobody likes SAP topic. Do you come across SAP? Maybe we can make nice.
Yes.
Only one. So we know what SAP is. Okay. Does anybody work for SAP? Before I continue, I feel like you work for SAP somehow. No. A disclaimer: what I'm about to say or present. There's definitely a lot of content by SAP that protects all of the things we're going to discuss. This is more towards what companies are moving towards, the technology that we're using, and we're not going to do the old legacy stuff that's still running in most environments. We're just going to see how evolving SAP from what everyone calls a small application into an entire ecosystem, which is quite huge, and the attack vector that is there. So, yes, SAP does have certain protections in place for all of the things we're going to discuss here. So we'll come across them later on. Just a few myths I like to start with SAP, because we usually hear it a lot, whether it is in Germany or outside of Germany, Europe. It's a global market for SAP. They think they have the biggest share when it comes to ERP and CRM and so on and so forth. So they do run a lot of different business processes, whether it is also industries in manufacturing, airlines. They do have a lot of areas that they work in. But some of them is that we usually hear. So SAP moves with the transformation and the cloud. It's in the cloud, so it's protected by default. They have a team that makes it protected. So a lot of CISOs we meet, and a lot of CISOs I speak to, even to some extent people who are outside of this SAP ecosystem, or the Japanese world, I call it.
Is it a myth or?
It's a myth, of course.
That is
or a misconception,
secure, right?
huh?
That it's safe and secure.
Yeah, of course it is. Another one is that identity access management and authorization is the do-it-all in SAP. So if you have this secure, you're not going to get hacked or compromised. While this is a big topic in SAP or in SAP systems, it's still not the only one. Your SAP system connects to a lot of different interfaces or a lot of different non-SAP also applications, whether it is banks, whether it is your manufacturing devices. There's the non-SAP and SAP systems that operate all of these business processes. So quite an important part. Custom code on SAP is quite heavy. We're not going to dig into custom code based off of their proprietary programming language. If anybody have heard of it, ABAP? You probably have. No? So they have a proprietary programming language. We'll come to it. But also they do have a lot of proprietary network protocols that enables different communication, whether it is between two SAP systems or whether it is with an SAP system to a non-SAP system. So there's that part as well. We'll come to it.
Authorization is also a myth.
It's
a myth. So
by itself, it is a myth and a misconception that it protects your SAP systems.
Good to know.
Why?
Good to know.
Okay. Enforcing controls on production. Also a misconception that, so there's these staging levels in SAP. You have, like any other application development, you have dev, you have quality or test, and quality and production. All of this is connected to each other. So we do a lot of pen testing in the company, and we do find it is very basic mistakes where a remote function call, also a proprietary protocol that SAP uses, is connected from a quality system to a production with high privileges user, and you could really use that connection to do a lateral movement. So only on production, also a misconception to enforce these controls. SAP Basis. Has anybody heard of SAP Basis before, teams? So they're like your IT administrators, but they're called SAP Basis in this Japanese world, I call. They take care of configuration. They take care of setting up everything. They're the best if you want answers about SAP, but not security. Even though they do handle it in most cases, but some organizations are now expanding that specific silo that is there towards the security team who understands threat detection, who understands malware, who understands all of these specific areas that also apply to SAP. So we try to also another misconception around SAP basis. And then the isolation, we did speak about different ways that SAP can connect it, but one of my favorites, and of course the last would be, is it's German made, so it's secure by default. you do hear it a lot. Right now you don't as much, but yes, it's from Germany. It's good software. It's isolated. We did apply our authorization, so I think it is fine. We don't need to test it. We don't need to look deeper into it. But another misconception there. So, from an offensive perspective, who does pen testing usually? Not for SAP. So, when you are doing pen testing for SAP, it really depends on what your target is, even for the companies that you're doing pen test for. So whether it is on-premise, you don't need permission from SAP. Yes. If it's on the cloud, you need permission from SAP. So you need, has anybody recognized this? This is permit 838. Do you know what it is? Has anyone watched Asterix and Obelix? What the hell is it? You're moving my slides. Permit 838, Asterix and Obelix had this enormous list of impossible things to do. And this is how you do a pen test also with Asterix and Obelix. But there is a specific note, so there's notes that inform you what you can do for all your system patches, and there's a note specifically for pen testing, and they tell you, all right, you need to go through a process to actually request permissions to do pen testing on their cloud stuff, whether it is a SaaS or whether it is platform as a service, so BTP, what we're going to see now, or whether it's they're hosting it as a hyperscaler or as a hosting provider, which they are doing right now. So all of this you need permission to do. You can imagine the process it goes through, and they will only give you, unfortunately, a very strict period to do it, which is around 5 p.m. to after hours, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. That's what you can do for 2 weeks. Okay, thank you. For nothing. So what we did, well, outside of the company, I created with one of my ex-colleagues a OWASP project that is related to SAP stuff. I come from a different, well, my background is not started with SAP, but started with SOC and offensive stuff, and I wanted to dig deeper into SAP. So we did create which SAP did not like, but it's okay, a open source pen test playbook that you can find. We're still updating it. We're still improving it. Now we're going into also, BTP sections. These are known, another disclaimer, these are known stuff that you can find. We just accumulated it based on certain findings and put it. So, and then we created this entire project that is also open source that you can do a lot of things with. Whether it is creating rogue application servers with the Honey SAP, or really crafting packets based on those proprietary protocols using PySep. It's built on top of SCAPI, and also provides you with ways that you can really attack an SAP system responsibly. Another disclaimer. Anyway, attack surface discovery. So there are different pieces. We're introducing more, and this is for the open source community. It's on the OWASP project, and we try to bring it from a perspective that people who do not know SAP and want to test or want to, let's say, put it out or understand it from their organization, this is where is definitely a big part. Now, we do a lot of open source stuff, so the more, the merrier that can help. We're around now 70 plus people that are working on this, and hopefully we can get some more people to do the contribution. But about me. So, I'm Waseem. I work at No Monkey, as Rita was saying. We specialize, I think you guys got it, specialize in SAP cybersecurity. So whether it is from detection, to pen testing, to teaching about those different areas to SOC teams, to cybersecurity teams. We provide that. My background comes from the cybersecurity, and bringing that into SAP makes it a bit different than somebody who has been in SAP for a very long time going out of. But we have that mix within the team, which is always great to have. All right, we're going to start a little bit with this vector. I know that some of this is new to all of you. I'll try to explain as much as I can with the time that we have, but we'll try to identify. So what you have here, you have three different environments. You have your on-premise, what most of the organizations would have, definitely, and a whole bunch of application servers. So these application servers serve for different business processes, whether it's your finance, HR, you name it. It is there. And what they introduced is everybody needs to move to the cloud. So you have your private cloud environment, whether you're hosting it on JCP or you're hosting it on AWS, but also you can host it with SAP for added security, as they say. So there's that part. So you have to, I think there's some now limit or time where on-premise has to completely shift to the private cloud. While it's very difficult with bigger, older companies within Germany and outside of Germany, this is their goal until it was 2027, and now it's 2030. I don't know how that's going to work. But then they have this platform as a service, which is the BTP. And what it introduces is, yes, you can connect to your on-premise, you can connect to your private cloud environment, your public cloud environment, but also you can connect to other applications within your environment, whether it is non-SAP applications, SAP applications, HR systems. I don't know if you've heard of SuccessFactors for HR. These kind of applications you can connect. And to connect to that, and then try to connect it also to your on-premise, and this is the use of what is called a cloud connector. You could think of it as a router, not a router, a bit more glorified than a router, and it enables this kind of connection from BTP to your on-premise. So this is the single point of entry for your on-premise. I'll let you get that synced in. So this is your single point, and with what SAP states is that you don't need a firewall here for a cloud connector because it's a one-way communication, and it starts creating an encrypted tunnel where it only starts, or the tunnel starts, once a command or a request goes from the on-premise. So, and this is the core of our research, where this is not the case. This is where we've identified that you can jump from a own custom application from here, going into the on-premise using this secure tunnel that SAP has created. And we shall see it together. But at least you get an idea of the ecosystem. Well, it's not the full picture, but this is more towards what we have been researching. We do a lot towards also the on-premise part, but that's a different conversation. So, BTP, we just said it, it's more towards, or at least offers integration environments that you can build your own applications, analytics, you name it. It's a platform as a service. Everything that you find here, you will find in those other hyperscalers. But this is more also towards enabling those customers to stay with SAP, of course, and move from this on-premise, to the cloud environments. All right. Excuse me. I'll let you read it while I drink water. So I just want to explain how the architecture works, so my demo would make sense, because then it wouldn't make sense. So with BTP, every company who subscribes or gets a BTP account, they get one global account. It's just your subscription or your entitlement towards SAP. It's your contract. This is a global account, and then you could start creating multiple sub-accounts. and this sub-account, then you have your services, whatever you're doing, authentication services, you name it, and then runtimes. Runtimes are your environments that enables you to build your own custom applications. So the main introduction of those runtimes is also to remove or to get away from ABAP, their programming area. As you might notice, like Cloud Foundry is open source, so you probably have come across Cloud Foundry before. You could put this not just in SAP, but in any other system and run it, your own machine. Kima is heavily supported by SAP, and it works on Kubernetes. So if you know Kubernetes, you know Kima. But we'll come later to this. To expand this diagram a little bit from here to here so you could get an understanding of what you might find. You will find your cloud connector, of course, as I said before, your on-premise, going into the global account. But before that, you probably would need a provisioning service or an authentication service. SAP has their own products, but you can use Microsoft or other provisioning services to connect. You just need to utilize proper APIs and you can do it. That's not a problem. And then within the sub-accounts, so they have also the staging stuff. Production sub-accounts, development sub-accounts, and so on and so forth. And it still becomes the same mentality you were thinking of in on-premise with all the different services, the environments that you have. This enables it at least to identify or build what you require for your on-premise, for your open services, for your non-SAP systems, but it helps organize certain stuff. So you can imagine that security requirements would definitely start, regardless of that, from your global account, how you are doing your directories against sub-accounts, what you're doing with identity access management, your interfaces, what they can access, and so on and so forth. So this is just a different architecture on how these directories work. So this is the global account. You can have multiple sub-accounts, and then you could see and imagine how your attack vector can grow from here. Now, this is the same, well, not mentality, but same sort of design that was also in the on-premise. You have an application server that can be multiplied or expanded through instances, and thus you have the same kind of concept with these global accounts or with BTP in general. So the more that you have, the more you need to really look into it. And this is where the attack vector starts to grow from that perspective. I did speak about environments, but these are the most ones that are used. Yes, they brought ABAP. I did say that they wanted to get rid of it, but that is impossible with their on-premise stuff, or with especially older companies that have, older, bigger companies that have these legacy R3 or their older SAP systems. They still need ABAP for their custom coding. But this is when you're shifting or when you are developing ABAP. Definitely there's a lot of ways that you can protect it. It's not that it doesn't provide those functionalities, but they wanted to introduce it. So their entire kind of concept of we want to get rid of ABAP did not quite work as they wanted. But also the attack or the vector has expanded with the use of other programming languages, whether it is around what you can do in Cloud Foundry or what you can do in Kima. So now you could use anything that you can imagine. So our attack vector involves Cloud Foundry. This is a bunch of, I don't need to explain all of this. We can come back to it. But what is the attack vector? So usually this is, actually we took it as an example from one of our findings. You have a normal human connecting to an application that is built on this environment or on this Cloud Foundry. And then you need to provide what SAP calls a destination service. So it's basically a route that tells this application any kind of requests that is coming from this user. Let them get some information from this internal backend or this database or whatever you are having there, and starting exchanging. So it's basically a router, I don't know even if that makes sense with the destination service, but it provides users with where they need to go. You can put authentication, you could put authorizations on it, you could block certain traffic if properly done. So what we've identified is that usually with those apps that are being developed, developers forget to close down certain services and certain back-end information, like secret keys, like private keys, like certificates. And this is a configuration issue. This is not like, oh, wow, what did you find? No, this is a configuration issue that it's identified every time we go in there. And then after that, you are will be able to speak from the client or send requests directly to your backend, which shouldn't be publicly available or shouldn't be publicly available from that perspective. So I'm going to play the demo. Unfortunately, I wanted to do this as a live, but SAP blocked my account a month ago. It's not about any kind of security perspective, I think so. I don't know. We have a paid environment that we play around with, but I'm not sure what happened, but they did block it. So you get the demo. We actually we presented this in B-Site Dresden. Luckily I found one of the demos. The other one, unfortunately, is not there, but I will explain the attack vector from the Kima environment. So just a quick attack chain or the heist of this Cloud Foundry. We're going to find some services that shouldn't be there. And this, we just replicated a application we have been working on from a customer. And then we tried to steal some certificates, try to look for, this is like, you're going to see like, okay, this is nothing, this is easy to do. And then finding those services, apps.internal, and then directly starting having access to customers or financial information from that perspective. Let's see if that works. So here is your normal Flask app. It's quite vulnerable, so we're just trying to identify what happens. And then you need to really define different services. So whether it is the authentication access, which is UAA, or user authentication, user access and authentication, that provides you with the access that is required to actually go into that application. Those specific services you need to create. Just to show you that we will go to the BTP actually, but here there are 4 applications running. The demo is the one that is published. The internal backend is the one that shouldn't be published. We're going to find a way to get that through those, see what kind of services are published. But in general, just information on the application. You could SSH into Cloud Foundry instances that you create. And they're called spaces in Cloud Foundry, just as an FYI. And these spaces enables you, to develop anything. So this is just a view of what you could see in BTP. These are our research demos of applications. This is from front end. You could control it, everything here. Put all your different configuration security stuff around this. Going into the demo or the RC demo, also you could understand the instances that are running, what kind of capacity, so on and so forth. I like to skip it, but we have to wait because I'm not running up there. And then you find the routes. This is where I talked about the destination services. So the BTP, we have the internal backend, where it's supposed to go for every request, what you can do with it, and the path, of course, the domain that is there. But at least you could get an idea of what needs to work for every request that is coming. So we're going to take this domain for the public available services, put it on Verb Suite. Yeah, it's quite easy. It's not and then try to identify those services. As you can see, these services that we identified was a service called command run and then a debug environment. I mean, anybody who's done pen testing or a security person who just has some logic would say, okay, so the command run must be that we can access something in the back end. But was it the internal back end or the front end, which is the demo? It was the front end, which is okay, because with the services, how they are designed is to protect or save secrets inside the coding application. So you're connected to this backend, but every secret is saved in the initial application or in the published application. We'll have a look. We're just testing this command run with who am I, and then you could see the user, which is it's a pretty low level privileged user that can't do much, but that user can read instance keys, can read then certificates. So this is actually the private key, and can read certificates. So that normal privileged user, or not non-privileged user, as they say, and again you could read the certificates from that perspective. So what else can we find that enables us to really go into the back end? We just have to wait a little bit to see from the instance or the debug environment. This is usually, all of this can be restricted. So you can put authentication around it, you can not publish it. And now we're going to test out this service that is called debug environment or debug env. And from there, you could find then from here the client ID. You have some secrets for the UAA, the instances. You can find a bunch of random information about certain variables. The most important part, of course, where is this connecting to? Like, what kind of back-end services are we looking for? And this was also available in these kinds of configuration, which is the VCAP services here. And it just tells you, okay, this publish available application is connecting to a BTP internal backend with a secret name that is there. So this was actually an actual instance that we allocated. So this is the, just going to the demo. I think we need to go. This is the binding where you can create all of this. Just showing where you could do it and how you can protect it properly. But this wasn't the case when you are creating those bindings to connect your published application into your internal application. There's a credential store which is shown inside the Cloud Foundry space. And this is what you see here. So by default now, you would want to test how you can reach this internal backend instance. All you need to do is get this URL or the target, and we try to request what kind of stuff we require. Do we need a username password? Do we need an API key? And apparently it just needed to get that API key that is shared to the front end, pass it along, and get the information we require. So bear with me a few seconds to showcase that. And we're changing the target now. And then, of course, you're not allowed, once that is changed, you're not allowed, you need some sort of authentication, or you need that XAPI key. And you take that, like the developer was quite helpful in telling us what you require for a request. And then once you gather that you found that XAPI key inside one of the environmental variables, you just need to request it and request the customers that is there. We knew it from, and then you get a whole bunch of information around it. Not difficult, not super difficult, but also very interesting on misconfiguration and authentication when it happens, but also with how the concept of the sub-accounts and global accounts where you need to put these kinds of security measures in place. I did say SSH previously, and this service was quite also interesting. Anybody who has access to this space or where you are creating applications can easily create a one-time password, which is created by as a functionality. I don't know why. I'm happy to hear your thoughts. A one-time password to access the SSH service. So you could, if you have a space, you could click, I need a one-time password, you get it, you access SSH. Now, the tricky part is, even if you have disabled SSH on your production sub-accounts, you need to actually disable it from the entire global account, because then you still running, still working. How the connection from these environments to the services, there's an SSH running. You could connect to it. So that's a different demo, of course, but it's quite interesting. If you come across any kind of cloud foundry services, look for an SSH. It's not on port 2022. It's 2222, something like this, where you could find this SSH. Kima. Similar concept. I don't have the demo for this, unfortunately. But Kubernetes. Anyone worked with Kubernetes before? Okay, good. So it's basically based off of the Kubernetes. SAP supports this heavily. It's quite good. You just need to protect it. So what the attack vector has enabled us to do is you have a similar thing. You have a client. There's a gateway for within Kima. There's different runtimes. Then you have your applications. Then you have this connectivity service. We did say there's a destination service, and connectivity service allows you to connect to your on-premise. We mentioned the cloud connector. It is a one-way traffic, one way. It's a tunnel that is created between your BTP and on-premise. And the only way, and I'm just repeating SAP's words, the only way that it starts a interaction is by sending a request from here, not from the BTP. So how can we see if this is an actual risk? What we've identified is that Cloud Connector publishes services from your on-premise. And those services, it's the same thing as your Cloud Foundry. It is for your applications, for your customers, for whatever you're using these services for. It helps you, or if you have it published, you take these services, you conduct similar things that you have conducted in your Cloud Foundry. The only thing that you only need to change is how to do a lateral move toward your on-premise. And if you remember, I said that SAP uses their own proprietary protocols called RFC, remote function calls, and this is the best way to do it. They're very powerful. Remote function calls use function modules, and these function modules is just a set of code to tell the system what to do. And SAP has over 90,000 plus function modules. This is where most of the research, just FYI side note, goes into these function modules. Because it's a bunch of code that's quite vulnerable. You can stop it, you can block it, you can do whatever you want from it. But once you have it, then you could utilize this kind of pivoting towards your on-premise with function modules. So SAP would look at it like, oh, it's my own proprietary protocol, I'm going to use it, and you, user, can use it as well because I trust you. This default trust in SAP technology is quite phenomenal, I would say. And it happens also on premise. So they have this default trust. They're trying to improve, to be honest with you. And a lot of companies are moving from, okay, if it's an SAP system, then I don't need to trust it right away, because we've introduced this rogue application servers that then it's direct trust that you can register to an application server. So this is the same way or mentality of thinking about it. And then the Cloud Connector was not needed a firewall in front of it for these kind of requests. All right. SAP best practices. That's it? No. There's a lot of best practices from that perspective, so please go ahead and read. There's a lot to do. Definitely, they will not, with Cloud Foundry, it's open source. So it's not just SAP telling you what you can do, but go to the Cloud Foundry portal or whatever it is to also identify what you are able to do from there, or Kima as well. With ABAP, Oh, that's even a different talk and different discussion, which, if you want to discuss it, please find me later. All right. You saw it. Yes. Anyway, what I do and I enjoy my work is protecting this. I know that, and we are in one of the most countries that consume beer a lot. So imagine, and it does operate, so 72% of the world production depends on SAP. Of course, airports, airlines, whatever you call it, depend on SAP. But imagine these empty halls, or Oktoberfest, if you've ever visited, and it would be empty. So this is why I do it. You get why I went into this Japanese world. Not really, but it's a benefit for me that I try to protect this, or the company. There's a lot of stuff that are happening around SAP security. So SAP does provide that kind of protection. It's just up to the customer to do it. So they provide a lot of documentation. SAP is not a security company. It's a application, whatever you want to call it, company, ERP, CRM. So security is provided. It's just the customer needs to do it, or the organization utilizing SAP needs to do it. The information is kind of scattered everywhere. That's why we do what we do, but at least from that perspective, I even can save you some time, what we do with SAP security. I hope that was informative. If there's any questions, please do. Thank you very much.
Have you found any sub-account, cross-sub-account issues?
Sorry, again?
Have you found any cross-sub-account issues? Like, there's the whole concept of having global accounts and then sub-accounts. So have you found something or identified something that would be like cross-sub-account?
Gross sub-account.
Maybe like cross sub-account.
Cross sub-account. Cross, okay, my bad. Yes, with those environments. So these environments can enable you to utilize certain sub-accounts. Now, yes, there is some sort of isolation, but when you are working with environments, you are working to some extent on a different, I'm not going to call it, like, on a different infrastructure than the actual BTP that's sitting on. So yes, there is a way to do it. We have not identified, but we have identified that you can actually see other sub-accounts to some extent, which would be interesting to see if you can get into it, right? Still, there's like with the research, there's a lot of limited stuff that you can do that SAP still needs to know about, right? Even if it is like our own accounts and our own platform, you still need to inform them. Or maybe they blocked my account because of that. I don't know, but it's actually that entire company's account is blocked. I don't know if it's because of me, but anyway. Yeah, there's a lot to do. You have to be in touch with SAP a lot. They would allow you to some extent, depending on how far you go with that. And we always are reporting these responsibly. But yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.